Hello, my name is Elena, and today I'll be talking about something a little bit more personal, how teenagers deal with death and grief. When I was younger, I lost my grandmother to cancer. That loss changed everything in ways I didn't even understand at the time. She wasn't just my grandmother, she was like a second mother to me. I used to spend almost every single weekend at her house. She'd wait for me with fresh kurulakia, and every time I walked in, her house smelled like chamomile tea and lavender, and it was just homey. Her hugs were warm, and she always told me, "No matter what, I'm proud of you." That sentence meant everything to me. She would hum soft Greek lullabies when doing chores, and I'd sit nearby just watching her. It was the kind of calm you don't notice until it's gone. At first, the signs were small. She started getting really tired really quickly. She didn't bake as much. She needed help getting up from her chair. And as a kid, you think adults will always be strong. But then came the hospital visits. She lost her hair. She lost weight. And the sparkle in her eyes started fading. I didn't understand why someone so gentle had to suffer like that. I remember being scared. Scared of what happens, scared to ask questions, and mostly scared to lose her. I kept thinking she would get better, and I told myself that the treatments would work. No one really explained to me how serious it was. Maybe they were trying to protect me, but in the end, it just made it harder to process. When she passed, I remembered feeling numb. I didn't cry right away. It was like my brain refused to believe it. Everyone around me seemed to know what to do: cry, plan the funeral, cook food for visitors. But I just froze. I didn't talk about it with my parents. I didn't want to bring more sadness into the house. I definitely didn't talk about it with my friends. I felt like they wouldn't understand. I'd go to school and act normal, but inside I was really hurting. I kept remembering little things, like how she used to brush my hair while telling me stories about Greece, or how she'd sneak me an extra piece of dessert when my parents said no. It was like her voice was still in my head, but she wasn't there. Eventually, I started having dreams about her. Sometimes she was really healthy again. Sometimes she was saying goodbye. I didn't tell anyone, but those dreams brought me comfort. It was like she was still with me, even just in memory, even if it was just in memory. Looking back now, I think that was the first time I truly thought about death, not as something far away, but as something that could happen to someone I love. That close made me realize how fragile life is and how important it is to talk about grief, especially as a teenager. I wish someone had told me that it's okay to cry, that it's okay to not be okay, that grief doesn't look the same for everyone. I thought I had to be strong and quiet, but now I know it's stronger to speak honestly. Honestly. Even today, years later, I still think about her. Sometimes I smell something familiar like lavender or cinnamon, or even just warm laundry, and I'm taken back to her house. I still miss her. I always will. But I've often learned that missing someone is also a way of keeping them close. It means their love didn't disappear. Losing my grandmother shaped how I see death, love, and healing. And it's helped me understand how important it is for teens to have support when they go through something like this. In this presentation, I will explore how adolescents understand and cope with dying and death through three lenses: sociology, psychology, and anthropology. I'll talk about the causes of death like car accidents, suicide, and also religion, and also look at how religion, culture, and social media shape how teens experience grief. My goal is to show how deeply personal and social this topic really is. Alright, so let's begin with the sociological look, focusing on how real life risks and social patterns impact adolescent death. So let's start with car accidents. Car accidents are one of the most common causes of death among adolescents in the US, according to Gradiness 2021. These accidents account for 23% of deaths among youth, aged 10 to 24. Many of these are caused by risky behaviors like speeding, texting while driving, or drinking. Teens' brains are still developing, especially the part responsible for decision making. That makes them even more likely to take dangerous risks. Suicide is another leading cause of death in adolescents, especially those aged 14 to 18. Mirza et al. 2024 found that religion can play a protective role, particularly for girls. Girls who were connected to faith were less likely to have suicidal thoughts or attempts. For boys, the impact was smaller, but still significant. If they had a strong personal connection to religion, interestingly, the parents' belief didn't help as much as the teens' own belief did. But not all religious groups had the same outcomes. Catholic adolescents were less likely to report suicidal thoughts, while Muslim adolescents had higher risks, possibly because of discrimination or social exclusion in schools. Mirza et al. 2024. So, the sociological risks are even greater for LGBTQ youths, who often face what Course et al. 2022 called minority stress. This includes things like bullying, fear of coming out, and rejection from family or peers. These pressures can lead to deep feelings of isolation. Many adolescents in this group fear they won't be accepted, and that fear, called coming out stress, can contribute to anxiety, depression, and even suicidal behavior. Gorse, Gorse's study found Gorse's study found the more minority stress a teen experienced, the more likely they were to have suicidal thoughts or attempts. This shows how powerful social environments are in shaping adolescents' mental health. Psychologically, adolescents are at a stage where their view of the world and death where their view of the world and of death is still developing. Morin and Welsh, 1996, found that teens from different environments define death in different ways. For example, suburban adolescents often describe death as the absence of life, while city teens, who are more likely to experience violence, talked about death through a personal experience, like shootings or loss. Some even gave safety advice instead of definitions, which shows how real their exposure to danger was. These responses tell us that an adolescent's understanding of death is shaped by where they grow up and what they've seen. For some, death is abstract. For others, it's a real part of daily life. Today, social media plays a major role in how adolescents cope with death and grief. When teens lose someone, they often turn to online platforms to share memories, photos, and feelings. Dovling 2017 found that these digital spaces help adolescents realize they're not alone. They can read others' stories and feel seen. For many teens, especially those who don't feel comfortable opening up in real life, these online communities often offer a form of healing. Posting about a loved one can also make death feel less final. Teens often say that sharing photos or memories makes them feel like the person is still part of their life. Culture and religion. So, culture and religion also play a powerful role in how adolescents view and handle death. In my case, being part of a Greek Orthodox family taught me that death isn't an ending, it's a transition. The soul lives on. As Miss Takidu, et al. 2024 to 2025 explain traditional ritual like the third traditional rituals like the third, ninth, and 40th day memorial services are deeply meaningful. These ceremonies include chanting, incense, and traditional foods like boiled wheat. They bring families together and help everyone process grief. But today, some of those traditions are fading. Fewer young Fewer young people are exposed to these rituals, especially as families grow smaller or become more private. This has created confusion for many teens who are stuck between old cultural beliefs and modern disconnected lifestyles. Still, many Greek adolescents continue to hold onto the belief that death is not the end. That belief helps them cope with loss in a spiritual and emotional way. Um, Adolescents don't only think about dying, they think about their own death too. Fishoff et al. 2010 found that many teens overestimate the risk of dying, especially those living in unsafe environments. They often imagine worst case scenarios and worry more than necessary. Some use metaphors like calling cancer a monster um, or death an enemy. As seen in a study by Woodgate and Busolo, 2017, these fears show how hard it is for teens to process something so complex and permanent. Losing a parent during adolescence can be devastating. Lenhart et al. 2000 showed that unresolved grief, especially after losing a mother, can cause a long term emotional damage. Many teens often experience denial, where their mind can't fully accept the loss, even though they know it's real. Girls were found to be more affected than boys. Losing a peer is also unique. Losing a peer is also a unique kind of pain. According to Merrick's and Berkowitz, 2023, when a classmate dies, it is often the first time a teen is faced with the death of someone their age. They might stop going to certain places or change their routine to avoid the memories. These losses show that teens these losses show teens that death isn't just something that happens in the elderly. It can happen to anyone at any time. So this project taught me that adolescence is a fragile time. Teenagers are not just dealing with school, identity, and growing up. They're also learning what it means to lose someone. From my own experience with my grandmother to all the research I've read, one thing is clear. Grief isn't something you just get over. It's something you learn to live with, and you carry it with you. It changes how you see the world. Whether it is culture, whether it is religion, whether it is support from peers, or even strangers online, every bit of connection helps. Teens need to know they're not alone. They need places where they can express their sadness, their confusion, and their pain safely. If we give adolescents the space to grieve and support them through loss, we're not just helping them cope with death, but we're helping them understand the meaning of life. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Bye.